As a new parent, it will be important to know if your baby is developing at a healthy rate. In this presentation, we will help you do just that by examining the reflexive and pre-adapted period. In the first year of your baby's life, he or she will move and kick in many different ways. We would like to provide you with some information that you can use as a metric to assess your child's motor development. Motor skills develop sequentially and cumulatively, so you want to make sure your baby is developing correctly at a very early age. If they are not developing correctly, it could inhibit your child's future motor abilities. To provide you with this information, we will discuss your baby's reflexive period and pre-adapted period of motor development. The reflexive period of motor development occurs approximately between the third gestational month and 2 weeks post-birth. These age boundaries will vary slightly, so use them as guidelines. During the reflexive period, you will witness your baby perform two types of movement. One is a reflexive movement, which are stereotypical responses to a specific stimuli. And reflexive movements exist to overcome birth trauma, facilitate survival, and provide a basis for later voluntary actions. The second type of movement is spontaneous movements, which are movements that appear to be elicited by no known stimuli such as kicking or arm bending. Spontaneous movements exist to facilitate exploration of the relationship between muscle activation, body motion, and sensory feedback. A 2005 study says, while watching their moving arms, newborn babies acquire important information about themselves and the world they move in. Information babies need for later successful reaching and grasping. In addition, they may provide the basis for trial and error learning, which we call motor babbling. Both reflexive and spontaneous movements are considered to be a basis for later patterns of movement coordination. Next, we will look at the pre-adapted period of motor development. The pre-adapted period of motor development occurs approximately 2 weeks post-birth to 1 year. This period consists of species-typical behavior and ends with the attainment of self-feeding and independent walking. Using these two periods of motor development, compare your baby to the following examples in order to evaluate your child's motor development. The first primitive reflex is the Babinski reflex. This reflex typically displays from birth to around 4 months. To stimulate this reflex, stroke the sole of your baby's foot from the heel to the toe. A healthy response to the stimulus is if your baby's toes extend and fan outwards. If this reflex persists after 6 months or is absent altogether, it could indicate problems with the central nervous system. The next reflex you can test is the Moro reflex. This typically displays prenatally to about 3 months post-birth. To stimulate this reflex, hold your baby in a supine position and simulate the baby's head falling. A healthy response to this stimulus is if the baby's arms and legs extend, fingers spread, and the arms and legs flex. If this reflex occurs asymmetrically, persists after 6 months, or is absent altogether, it could indicate a disturbance of the central nervous system or other neurological disorders. Another important reflex is the palmar grasping reflex. This is typically displayed prenatally to about 4 months. To stimulate this reflex, touch your baby's palm with your finger or another object. A healthy response to this stimulus is if your baby's hands close tightly around the object. If this reflex occurs asymmetrically, persists after 1 year, or is absent altogether. Again, it could be indicative of peripheral nerve damage or other neurological disorders.